Briggs is our marketing analyst this week. The latest USDA cattle report came out in February. The mid-year cattle report, scheduled for release this month, was canceled due to USDA budget cuts, which means detailed numbers for the current state of the industry after a multi-year drought are difficult to predict. We know from February's report that the inventory for cattle and calves was the lowest since 1952. The stock of cows and heifers was the smallest since 1941. The current UNL Drought Monitor classifies nearly 98% of Nebraska in some form of drought. Last year at this time, all the state was in some form of drought, but it wasn't as severe. Recent estimates from the USDA show U.S. farmers will plant the most corn acres in 77 years. If realized, that should lower input prices for cattle feeders. The Livestock Marketing Information Center is forecasting a 33% drop in corn prices for the 2013-2014 crop marketing year to $4.60 per bushel. But with U.S. corn progress behind normal, the actual fall harvest can come none too soon for the feeder. Friday's Cattle on Feed report, released after this taping, will shed light on marketings and placings in a feedlot sector that's now battling to fill pens.
This is the smallest number of cattle we've had probably since the 80s. The cattle market's really tough. It's hard to want to place any cattle because you're still buying huge losses. Customers don't want any part of it, and we don't want any part of it either. We've lost enough money.
Yeah, those losses have been there for a while now. Is it just that nobody has the stomach or the bank to stay in there any longer?
I think it's some of both. People are just primarily most of our customer base is farmer feeders. And the farmer's making so much money on this $7 and $8 corn, he doesn't want to give it back on these cattle. And it's been going on for about 18 months now. And the losses are pretty staggering, and people are just tired of it.
Do you feel that's widespread not only across Nebraska?
Absolutely, it's widespread. And not just Nebraska. No, you're seeing yards in Texas close. You're seeing cattle migrate this way because this is where the feed is. But even that, we still have $7.50 corn, and that makes it really difficult when this week we might trade $15, $16 cattle and cost of gains are $1.25, $30.
Can you see any way to be optimistic once harvest rolls around and think I might try to get in now so I'm there when or if it turns?
Great question. I know that I'm trying to buy smaller cattle so that I will have cattle here to have the cheaper corn in the fall. But you know, it's getting a little dry in Western Corn Belt. So the big struggle with the corn market lately has been, well, will the Eastern Corn Belt make up for what the Western Corn Belt's going to lose? Well, I have no idea. I just know it doesn't look that good here, and that's not good because we need a big corn crop.
Did you find any help in the acre numbers or in the recent supply and demand estimates? Anything there?
There's nothing really there for me. I'm more concerned about what we're going to have. It's going to be tough from here till harvest to have corn. You know, corn's $2 over right now. Who knows how far it could go if corn gets really seriously tight between now and harvest. The other things we have to worry about is how far behind this crop is, and you're going to have to worry about frost, and now it's getting hot and we have pollination, and there's so many things mixed into that corn crop. To count that thing as good is really hard for me at this point.
Right, that was one of the things we talked about a year ago, how it was an early harvest, and now with delayed planting, you're going from not only 12 months, but almost to 13, and possibly in some cases 14 months.
Absolutely, and that's going to put more stress on the whole situation.
Any help from consumers here this summer? We saw the delay in grilling season that really didn't come until maybe June, but
right.
Now as you get to the hotter part of summer, where is it?
Well, I think we have a real problem there because typically after the 4th of July, beef demand just does a header. And I don't see any difference this year because it's hot, beef is high, gas is getting higher, and so that pinches the consumer. And when it's hot, nobody wants a big protein-laden meal, and so I think that's a real concern. And beef is pretty high in the supermarket already. So I think from a demand standpoint, we have a problem, plus we have a little problem on the supply end of it, and I think we'll see that again in this week's Cattle on Feed. We've got a lot of big cattle up front that we have to go through in a time period where demand is not very good. So I'm afraid the market's going to struggle here for a little bit.
For a little bit? Does that mean that it's not going to after a little bit?
I don't think it gets very good till December. I think you're going to have to get through all these big cattle, get calves placed in feed yards so you don't have a big supply of fat cattle. You're going to have to get those gone. You're going to have to have smaller cattle come into the feed yard to actually get to where there's a tightness in numbers, because right now this tightness in numbers that we've been hearing about for a year never happens because we keep placing big cattle and just have upfront supplies consistently, and I don't see us getting out of that till November, December.
Where do you envision
a year from now for the cattle industry based off of 2 years of drought?
That's a great question. I'm completely lost right now. It amazes me. There's a lot of feed yards my size and smaller that are really down on numbers, and you have big feed yards that are really full. I know the packers own a lot of cattle right now, and they're going to have to, because until it becomes profitable, those of us out here in the free enterprise market aren't going to do it. So it's really interesting to me, and the calf crop's going to be small. There's going to be a structural change in this industry. I think there's going to be a lot of fallout from this, and there's going to be some feed yards that go away.
Not only feed yards, but what about in the pasture? What about the rancher who's trying to find pasture?
Yeah, that, you know, until Mother Nature decides to take better care of those guys, I don't know what's going to happen there. That's bad, because I know a lot of these guys grazed off their meadows this year because that's all they had for grass. Now that means they won't have any hay. That thing's tough, and you know, the only thing that solves that is Mother Nature and rain, a lot of it.